Welcome to the Adventures of the Monad. If one is gifted with etheric sight, one can discern a spectrum of life that has been recorded in myths and legends, but firmly has its roots in the reality of physical faculties that we can all develop. This has led some researchers to study the forms and types of various nature spirits. Let us continue the recounting of their findings. Some of the lower types of etheric nature spirits are not pleasing in the aesthetic sense. There are shapeless masses with huge red gaping mouths which live upon the loathsome etheric emanations of blood and decaying flesh. There are rapacious red-brown crustacean-like creatures which hover over houses of ill repute, and savage octopus-like monsters which gloat over the orgies of the drunkard and revel in the fumes of alcohol. Come to think of it, we should be glad we cannot easily see such monstrosities, or we would be scared witless. Having said that, it may just encourage us to live better lives. The entities posing or accepted as tribal deities for whom blood sacrifices are made, or food preferably of flesh, which is then burnt, are very low-grade creatures, possessing etheric bodies, for it is only through etheric bodies that they can absorb physical fumes and derive either nourishment or pleasure from them. This does not bode well for the character known as Jehovah, who seemed to be very fond of receiving tributes in the form of animal sacrifices and burnt offerings. This creature was probably a low-grade nature spirit that got elevated to the stature of a god. The nature spirit dwindling when burnt offerings went out of fashion. What replaced this entity was an egregore. Such a collective elemental functions in a different way, which has been highlighted in many presentations. The story is told of ointments and drugs which, when applied to the eyes, enables a person to see the fairy people, have a basis in truth. No anointing of the eyes can open emotional clairvoyant vision, though. If rubbed over the whole body, some ointments assist in the emotional body to leave the physical, in full consciousness. However, the application to the physical eyes might stimulate etheric sense. Check your local pharmacy for a bottle and try it yourself. Etheric sight makes visible several entirely new colors, quite different from those in the visible spectrum as we know it, and therefore indescribable in words we use at present. In some cases, these other colors are combined with the colors that we know, so that the two surfaces, which to ordinary eyes appear to match perfectly, would appear different in etheric sight. For the chemist, a whole fresh world would come under observation, and they could deal with ethers as they now deal with liquids and gases. Ledbetter and Besant did a lot of research in this field and wrote the definitive book on the matter called Occult Chemistry. There are, belonging to the mineral kingdom, many etheric substances, the existence of which is unknown to Western science. The bodies of humans in the first round and the first root race of the fourth round were constructed of etheric matter only and resembled vague, drifting and almost shapeless clouds. This possession of etheric sight would inform us of the healthiness or otherwise of our surroundings, and we would be able to detect disease, germs, or other impurities. The beneficial effects of travel are partially due to the change of the etheric and emotional influences connected with each place and district. Ocean, mountain, forest, or waterfall, each has its own special type of life, emotional and etheric, as well as visible, and therefore its own special set of impressions and influences. Many of the unseen entities are pouring out vitality, and the vibrations which they radiate awaken unaccustomed portions of a person's etheric double. They also affect their emotional and mental bodies. the effect being like that of exercising muscles which are not ordinarily called into activity. They may be somewhat tiring at times, yet distinctly healthy and desirable in the long run. Such activities as rowing, for example, or swimming, especially in the sea, are of special value for the reasons discussed. There is a basis of truth in the tradition that it is beneficial and strengthening to sleep under pine trees, with the head orientated to the north. The reason is that the magnetic currents flowing over the surface of the earth exert a steady, gentle pressure. They gradually comb out the entanglements and strengthen the particles, both of the emotional body and of the etheric double, and thus induce rest and calm. The radiations of the pine trees make a person sensitive to the magnetic currents, and in addition, the tree is constantly throwing off vitality in a formulation which is easiest for a person to absorb. There is also a kind of magnetic tide, an outflow and backflow of magnetic energy between the sun and the earth, the turning point of which are noon and midnight. The great etheric currents, which are constantly sweeping over the surface of the earth from pole to pole, possess a volume which makes their power as irresistible as that of the rising tide. There are methods by which this stupendous force may be safely utilized, though unskillful attempts to control it would be fraught with danger. It is also possible to use the tremendous force of etheric pressure. In addition, by changing matter from a grosser to a subtler kind, the vast store of potential energy which lies dormant may be liberated and utilized, somewhat as latent heat energy may be liberated by a change of condition of visible matter. This is where the future of our energy supplies lie, not in solar or wind power, nor nuclear reactors, but the natural energy and polarity generated by the earth as it spins. A reversal of the process just described enables us to change matter from the etheric to a solid condition and thus produce a materialization phenomenon. This faculty is sometimes employed in case of emergencies, where a person in their emotional body, acting as an invisible helper, chooses to appear or act on physical matter. The faculty demands considerable power of sustained concentration, and the mind must not be taken off for 1 microsecond, or the matter of the materialized form will instantly fly back to its original condition. The reason why a physical object, after being reduced to its etheric condition, can afterwards be restored to its former shape is that the elemental particles are retained as an essence, in the same shape, and when the will force is removed, the essence acts as a mold, which the solidifying particles re-aggregate into. If, however, a solid object is raised to a gaseous condition by heat, the elemental essence which described the object would be dissipated, not because the essence itself can be affected by heat, but because when its temporary body is destroyed as a solid, it pours back into the great reservoir of such essences, much as a person's higher principles, though entirely unaffected by heat and cold, can be forced out of a physical body when the latter is destroyed by fire. A process must be employed to reduce a physical object to an etheric condition, and then to move it from one place to another, even through solid matter such as a brick wall. An emotional current is used, and the movement happens with great rapidity. As soon as the disintegrating force is withdrawn, the matter is forced by the etheric pressure into its original mold or condition. When a person becomes etherically sensitive, in addition to sight, in most cases a corresponding change would at the same time take place in the other senses. Thus, it is claimed by astrologers that planetary influences, by expanding or congesting the etheric atmosphere, can make the conditions for meditation respectively more or less favorable. Incense is said to act on the etheric body to a certain degree, as colors do on the emotional body. and so may be employed to bring a person's vehicle rapidly into harmony. It appears that certain odors may be used to act on various parts of the brain. The effect of etheric sight is quite different from that of emotional sight. In the case of emotional sight, an entirely new element is introduced, often described as that of a fourth dimension. With such vision, for example, a cube would be seen as though it were all flattened out, all its sides being equally visible as well as every particle within it. With etheric sight, however, one merely sees through objects, and the thickness of the matter through which one is looking makes a great difference to the clearness of the sight. Such considerations do not affect emotional vision in the same manner. Etheric sight can also be used for purposes of magnification. The method is to transfer impressions from the etheric matter of the retina directly to the etheric brain, bypassing the optic nerve. The attention is focused on one or more etheric particles, and thus in this manner there is a similarity of size between the organ employed, the etheric particles, and the minute object being observed. A commoner method, though, one demanding a higher state of development, is to project a flexible tube of etheric matter from the center of the chakra between the eyebrows, having one atom at its end which serves as a lens. Such an atom must have all its 7 spirally developed. The atom can be expanded or contracted at will. This power belongs to the causal body, so that when an etheric atom forms a lens, a system of reflecting counterparts must be introduced. The need for 7 active spirally excludes 99.9% of us being able to pull off this trick. Back to plan A. By a further extension of the same power, the operator, by focusing their consciousness through a lens, can project it to a distant point. The same power, by a different arrangement, can be used to decrease the size of an object. This allows some to see an oversized object that would otherwise not be able to be seen at once with an ordinary field of view. This power was symbolized by a small snake projecting from the center of the forehead in the headdress of the pharaohs of Egypt. One of the various forms of telepathy is etheric and may take either of 2 forms. In the first, an etheric image is made, which can be seen by a clairvoyant. In the second, the etheric waves, which the creation of the image generates, radiate out and, striking upon another etheric brain, tend to reproduce in it the same image. The organ in the brain for thought transference, both transmitting and receiving, is the pineal gland. If anyone thinks intently upon an idea, vibrations are set up in the ether which permeate the gland, thereby causing a magnetic current, which gives rise to a slight quiver or creeping feeling. This feeling indicates that the thought is clear and strong enough to be capable of transmission. With most people, the pineal gland is not yet fully developed, as it will be in the course of evolution. There is known to esoteric students a process by which rays of light may be bent, so that after passing around an object, they resume exactly their former course. This would of course make the object around which the rays are bent invisible to ordinary sight. It may be surmised that this phenomenon would result from a power to manipulate the particular form of etheric matter, which is the medium for the transmission of light. Don't tell the military about this. The next topic to examine is magnetization of an object. We can start with that in the next presentation. Thank you.